Da-da-da-da-da-da! Welcome to Chuck E. Cheese's Fun Net.
Fun is made for sharing, share the fun at Showbiz Pizza Place. We've got family fun at Showbiz, Dayton fun at Showbiz, everyone fun at Showbiz, Showbiz Pizza Place. We've got eating fun at Showbiz, racing fun at Showbiz, Showbiz fun at Showbiz, Showbiz Pizza Place. Share the fun, come on and share the fun at Showbiz Pizza Place.
Chuck E. Cheese's, known as the place where a kid can be a kid, has been a part of everyone's childhood, including me. This popular pizza chain with arcades and animatronics has spread all around the globe, from California to Texas to Florida to Illinois. But there's one location that I would like to talk about, and that place is Lexington, Kentucky. Because believe it or not, even though this location is in Lexington, and I'm not the biggest fan of Lexington, it has always interested me, probably because of how much history there is with this location. So in this video, I will be going over the nearly 40-year history of the final Chuck E. Cheese location in Kentucky that I have yet to talk about, from a popular competitor to the main mouse himself to its unfortunate, or maybe fortunate, future. This is the history of Chuck E. Cheese's in Lexington, Kentucky. So before I talk about Chuck E. Cheese's in Lexington, I want to quickly go over the history of each. Chuck E. Cheese was founded on May 17, 1977, and opened its first location in San Jose, California. It was created by Nolan Bushnell, who was also the co-founder of the video game company Atari. He wanted to make a place that families could hang out and play the latest arcade games, since before this arcades were seen as dangerous places due to violence. As for Lexington, Kentucky's history, it's a little complex. Lexington, Kentucky was founded in 1775, 17 years before Kentucky was a state. It was originally thought to have been a part of Virginia. The name Lexington was chosen because of the first battle of the American Revolution was fought in Lexington, Massachusetts, and so the name was chosen in honor of that battle. By the 1820s, it had already been developed into a large town. It currently has a population of 322,200 as of 2020, making it the second largest city in Kentucky. Obviously a great place for that big fat pizza rat to expand to. However, while I've been mentioning Chucky a lot, he wasn't the first one to settle there. Instead, it was a certain one-toothed bear in overalls who called the horse capital of the world home.
It's great pizza.
And low prices.
That's why a Showbiz sells more pizza than anyone else. Showbiz makes fresh dough every day, heaps on real cheese and quality toppings, then bakes it in special ovens, time to the second. You'll stay for the newest games and rides, but it's the pizza that keeps you coming back to Showbiz.
I bet that pizza tastes good.
At Showbiz Pizza Place.
In 1983, the city of Lexington, Kentucky got a brand new family entertainment center and restaurant, and I bet you guys know what it was. Yes, it was none other than Showbiz Pizza Place with Billy Bob Broccoli the Bear. Now if you don't know what Showbiz Pizza Place is, then let me explain. So the history of Showbiz Pizza is a little complicated, but to summarize, Showbiz Pizza was founded on March 3rd, 1980, and opened its first location in Kansas City, Missouri. It was founded by Robert Brock, who was also the founder of the Brock Hotel Corporation. He was originally a franchisee with Pizza Time Theater, but then saw companies making more advanced animatronics and decided to start his own company with the help of Aaron Fechter, the founder of creative engineering. I'll talk more about their history as the video goes on, but for now let's get back to Lexington. The Showbiz Pizza Place of Lexington, Kentucky opened on December 1st, 1983, to the joy of locals everywhere. It was the 212th location to open. The restaurant was located on New Circle Road and was a part of the Woodhill Circle Plaza shopping center. According to some newspaper articles, the space Showbiz was once located in was originally home to a Walgreens, or some sort of small food market before it became a Showbiz Pizza. When it first opened, it was a franchise location owned by the McBiz Corporation, who also owned and operated 13 other Showbiz locations in the United States. Unfortunately, there's no photos of what the exterior of the restaurant looked like when it first opened, but I'm going to assume it looked like any other Showbiz Pizza location at the time. Similarly, there's no interior photos from this time either, but again it probably looked like any other location. They had laminated tables, fluorescent lights, and a glass door entrance. I should also point out that this location was really small, like it was smaller than Paducah's location, since it was not a standalone store and was in a shopping plaza. They had a large game room with over 60 arcade games. Some of the games at the location include Dragon's Lair, Skee-Ball, and later on they got the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game. And for smaller children, there was an area called Billy Bob's Barnyard, which had some small rides like a rocket ship, an airplane, a spaceship, a hot air balloon, a small Ferris wheel, and the ever-so-popular Billy Bob Carousel. They also had a bulletin board where children's drawings could be hung on. Oh yeah, we can't forget the very popular ball pit. That was called the Beach Ball Bear Swim. There was also a salad bar, and they sold other food items like sandwiches, ice cream, and even beer for the adults. And of course the pizza. They even had TVs that displayed your orders on it. There were two dining areas at this Showbiz Pizza, the first being the sports room, which was also called the Quiet Room. This room had a large TV that played sports games and there were some sports decorations on the walls, most likely from the University of Kentucky Wildcats, since they're Lexington's team. And because I don't really like the Wildcats too much, let's move on. The second dining area was the main dining area, referred to as the showroom. This is where you could go to get the real entertainment, provided by the Rockafire Explosion animatronic band. This band of animated animals performed on 3 stages, singing popular songs and performing comedy routines every 10 minutes. The characters on stage included Rolf the Wolf with his puppet Earl, Duke LaRue the drum-playing dog, Fats Geronimo the gorilla on the keyboard, Beach Bear on the guitar, Mitzi Mozzarella the lead female singer who's a mouse, Billy Bob the Bear who's playing the guitar, and who's also the mascot of Showbiz Pizza, and last but not least Looney Bird, the drunk bird who drinks gas and lives in a can. There were also a few prop characters that would pop up from time to time, such as the sun, the moon, Choo Choo the bear cub, and the birthday spider named Antioch. One cool thing about Lexington's Rockafire show is that Mitzi was unique to this location. You see, instead of wearing her traditional green cheerleading outfit, Lexington's Mitzi had a white cheerleading outfit on, with a blue K on the front. This of course matches the same outfits worn by the University of Kentucky cheerleaders. Although this dressing Mitzi in college cheerleading outfits is not exclusive to Lexington. Finally, there was a Billy Bob mascot who was used when the band wasn't performing, or when there was a birthday party. Billy Bob also made multiple appearances outside of Showbiz Pizza, like at a local swimming pool, and even the Kentucky State Fair. As the years went by, the Showbiz Pizza of Lexington, Kentucky held a few events and had some celebrities come to the location. They of course held normal Showbiz events like Colander Nights, holiday events, and teen nights, but they also held events exclusive to the Lexington location. As for celebrities, there weren't too many, but the ones I found were from 1985. One event had magicians perform, and another had ventriloquist Clifford Guest perform there with his puppets. By the late 80s, this is where things started to drastically change. Not sure if it was for the better, though. To put things into context, back in 1984, Showbiz Pizza bought Pizza Time Theater after they went bankrupt, and by 1986 the two companies merged into one, so now the two brands could cross over. One thing that came from the merger was a new remodel of both restaurants, and Lexington was one of the locations to be remodeled into the new Showbiz Pizza. This is the remodel that introduced the white backgrounds with the red, blue, green, and yellow colors in the logo, and the checkers. But other than that, the location was mostly the same. Aside from the new color scheme and the logo, the only other new changes added were new games, new rides, and new decor. They also got a new jungle gym and ball pit. As for the Rock-afire Explosion, they stayed the same except for the Billy Bob and Looney Bird stage. The stage was changed from Smitty Super Service Station to the Showbiz Pizza Campground. This was done to make the stage more unique compared to other Rock-afire stages at different Showbiz Pizzas. This backdrop was not exclusive to Lexington. Finally, since Chuck E. Cheese and Showbiz Pizza are one brand now, that meant the same characters could be used in both restaurants. So by the early 90s, Chuck E. Cheese made his official debut at the Lexington Showbiz Pizza. But little did local residents realize that Chuck's stay in Lexington was going to be a little more permanent than they thought.
Boring pizza places versus Chuck E. Cheese's. Their pizza, Chuck E.'s pizza. They're right. Chuck E.'s right. Their music. Chuck E.'s music. Why go to a boring pizza place when you can go to Chuck E.'s? Next time Mom says pizza, remember Chuck E. Cheese, please. The restaurant where a kid can be a kid.
As the early 90s came along, the Showbiz Pizza in Lexington, Kentucky was still going strong, but behind the scenes within the Showbiz Pizza Time Incorporated company, things were anything but going strong. You see, the company was trying to get the rights to the Rock-afire Explosion, but Aaron Fechter, the creator of the Rock-afire Explosion, didn't want to give up the rights to the band. And so instead, the company created something that will make a Showbiz fan's spine tingle: concept unification. For those of you unaware, concept unification was this process where the Rock-afire Explosion would go extinct and be stripped down to their mechs only to be replaced by the Chuck E. Cheese characters, also known as Munch's Make-Believe Band. Rolf the Wolf became Chuck E. Cheese himself, Mitzi Mozzarella became Helen Henny, Fats Geronimo became Mr. Munch, Beach Bear became Jasper T. Jowls, and Duke LaRue became everyone's favorite Pasquale the Chef. The prop characters were also replaced. The Sun became the Building, Choo Choo became Munch Jr., Looney Bird became Pizza Cam, and the Spider was removed completely and replaced by the Wink. The Moon, however, stayed behind. And before you ask, no, they did not keep Mitzi's UK cheerleader outfit for Helen. This change to the animatronics wasn't the only thing that changed, as the whole company was rebranded and the Showbiz Pizza name was dropped, in favor of the name Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza. Though some stores still kept the Showbiz name, Lexington was one of the few stores to still keep the Showbiz name. Which, speaking of Lexington, I couldn't find the exact date of when they received concept unification, but I believe it was around mid-1991, at least according to old newspapers. This saddened many Showbiz fans as the characters they knew and loved for years were now dead, and in their place were these essentially knockoffs. Now, I do actually like the Chuck E. Cheese bots, but it's still sad to see the Rock-afire go. You can actually watch the full concept unification tape on YouTube, but I will warn you, it might make you cry. Again, despite Chuck taking over, Lexington did still keep the Showbiz Pizza name. They actually kept the name all the way up until around 1993 or 1994, when they changed the name to Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza. They also updated to the CEC logo on the exterior. They did keep most of the rides and games left from Showbiz, and they added a couple of new games, like the Simpsons arcade game, air hockey, and whack-a-mole. In 1996, the location was sold to corporate, meaning it was no longer franchise-owned and now owned by the company. The next major change to come to the location wasn't until the late 90s or early 2000s, when the location received its next remodel. This time the restaurant was updated to the Phase 3 store. This is the remodel that gave us the classic Cool Chuck logo, the sports decor, and the movie parody posters such as this Men in Black parody. This is also the remodel that introduced those iconic colorful booths. They also ditched the ball pit and replaced it with the Sky Tubes and Toddler Zone. And once again, more games and rides were added, like the Chuck E car ride that takes your picture, and of course my favorite arcade game ever, Buzzy Buzzy Bee. At least I hope that was at the location. I love that game. Throughout the rest of the early 2000s, the Chuck E. Cheese's in Lexington stayed relatively the same, other than a few minor changes here and there. Really, the most changes involved the animatronics. For starters, all of the latex masks on the characters were replaced with the more familiar plastic masks, except for Munch Jr. because he was removed. Chuck received the Cool Chuck outfit, Munch got a new keyboard front, Jasper got the new pizza guitar, and interestingly, Pasquale's drum front was changed back to Duke's drum front from the Rockafire explosion. One interesting thing I noticed is that the TV on Chuck's stage actually kept the concept unification front. I don't think I've ever seen a 3-stage keep that before. But unfortunately, in 2006, something really sad would happen at the Lexington location. Well, actually, it wasn't that sad, unless you love the 3-stage.
They're squealing with feeling. It's Chuck E. Cheese's Every Kid's a Winner game. If you're 12 or under, just walk in, get a free game piece, peel it off, and you're guaranteed to win from 5 to 20 tokens. You can't lose.
Sometime in 2006, the Chuck E. Cheese's in Lexington, Kentucky went through another remodel. The restaurant was changed from a Phase 3 store to a Phase 4 store. It was actually one of the earliest Phase 4 locations, since up until then, the remodel was only a few years old. The exterior of the building was renovated a little bit, and the Cool Chuck logo was replaced by the Avenger Chuck Thumbs Up logo. The awnings were also changed from red to purple. Not only was the exterior changed, but the whole restaurant was expanded. Originally, it was quite small, but now there's a little bit more room. Other changes made to the restaurant included brand new decor. Most of the old Phase 3 decor was thrown out with the exception of a few posters and signage. Some new pieces of decor include brand new Avenger Chuck artwork, more parody posters, that red ticket poster thing, and those kid posters in the showroom. And just like the other remodels, they got new games and rides added. Some of the games that were added include Operation, this weird ball drop thing, the Avenger Chuck photo booth, and even Jurassic Park the game, though I don't think that's there anymore. Some of the new rides include Noah's Ark, that creepy clock ride thing, the legendary Stuart Little car ride, the even more legendary Barney the Dinosaur train ride, and that weird-looking helicopter bike thing. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like Lexington has more rides than actual games, but maybe I'm just going crazy. The biggest change made to the location besides the new decor and exterior was the animatronic show. The 3-stage, which had been there since the very beginning, was taken out and replaced with the more common stage type at the time, the Studio C Beta. It's unclear why the 3-stage was removed, but if I had to guess, it might have been because the stage was in a bad state of disrepair. For those of you who don't know what the Studio C Beta stage is, then let me explain. The Studio C Beta, originally known as Studio C 2000, was introduced in 2000 and was the third stage to use the Studio C name. It featured a blue screen with an interactive camera, 3 TVs playing show tapes and cartoons, and of course a stage featuring a 16-movement Chuck E. Cheese bot created by the Garner Holt Company. Originally, when the stage was first introduced, Chuck wore a red cap, blue shirt, and khakis. This would later be changed to the Avenger outfit, but Lexington still kept the red hat. After 2006, there really wasn't too many changes made at the restaurant, aside from the addition of new games and rides. Most of the changes came after 2012, when Chuck was redesigned to Rockstar Chuck. Lexington replaced their Avenger walk-around with the Rockstar Chuck walk-around. They were one of the first locations in Kentucky to get the suit. The Chuck E car ride was switched out to Rockstar Chuck, and the animatronic received the Rockstar shirt, and his hat was removed. Similarly, the blue screen near the stage was changed due to the ticket blaster being placed in front of it. Interestingly, they actually kept the blue screen wall all the way up until around 2017 or 2018. Now, despite all the joy and happiness this restaurant brings to many people, there's been quite a few noteworthy incidents that I would like to talk about. Of course, I'm sure there were a few incidents during the Showbiz Pizza era and the other CEC eras, but the only ones I could find occurred in the late 2010s. One of the strangest incidents to happen at Lexington's Chuck E. Cheese was the time they closed down due to there being too many kids. Yeah, so on March 12, 2016, the location closed early due to there being too many kids. Police were called because there was apparently a fight, but it was just a verbal fight, nothing physical. The manager left because her daughter broke her arm, and the manager that was supposed to take the other one's place decided to close early because they didn't feel like working. Employees were confused, kids were crying, and parents were angry at the idiocy of the whole situation. CEC Corporate tried to compensate the families affected, but it's unclear if anyone was fired. But I certainly hope some people were. The most well-known incident to happen at the location happened just a few months after the last incident. In June 2016, a man walked into Chuck E. Cheese's and asked for a job application. He then came back for an interview and revealed his true intentions. He said he was going to rob the restaurant and said he had a gun on him and demanded the manager open the safe and give him the money. The manager told him that no one had access to the safe and convinced him to leave. He then broke down in tears, repeatedly apologizing to the workers, but later that day the same guy allegedly robbed a Dollar General. Lexington police did try looking for him, but I couldn't find out if he was ever caught or not. By 2019, the Chuck E. Cheese's in Lexington was starting to go pretty downhill. It was considered by some to be the worst CEC in the state of Kentucky. This is because the location was not taken care of, and the people working there didn't care about it. There's a ton of reviews from a few years ago that mention how the staff is very rude, and how the place was extremely dirty. It's so dirty, in fact, that in July 2019, the restaurant was put on probation and had to temporarily close due to failing a health inspection. There was mold in the ice machine, old rotten food that hadn't been thrown away, unhygienic practices, a toxic spray bottle on top of salad, and even confirmed cases of roaches, raw sewage, and even rats. No, not that one, but this was definitely a weird case of irony. Not only was the restaurant a complete dump at this point, the poor Chuck E. animatronic was starting to show his age. I'm pretty sure Lexington never hired a tech, because as years went by, Chuck's condition went from bad to worse, to the point where his mouth and arms barely moved and his cosmetics were so dirty. Also around this time, Chuck E. Cheese was starting to face severe competition as more pizza restaurants and family entertainment centers were opening. Some were even just a couple of miles away from CEC. These included Gaddytown, Malibu Jack's, and even Monkey Joe's. And don't worry, this guy is definitely getting his own video next year. So what was Lexington's Chuck E. Cheese able to do? Well, there was this new thing that corporate created that was about to be rolled out nationwide. This thing could help improve Lexington, but it came at a price. The death of the bot.
Happy birthday!
Cool! Thanks, Mom! Whoa!
Want the coolest birthday ever? Introducing birthday parties with unlimited games at Chuck E. Cheese's. All the tickets you can win. All the games you can play. Birthdays with unlimited games with the new Birthday Star Play Band. Only at Chuck E. Cheese's.
In September 2019, it was announced that Lexington's Chuck E. Cheese would undergo another remodel. This is, of course, the cancer known as Chuck E. Cheese 2.0. By the way, this is the last time I will refer to 2.0 as cancer. If you have a good replacement name for cancer, put it in the comments. As for why Lexington was chosen for the remodel, it's pretty darn clear why. The place was terrible. Now, while people were pissed and upset when Paducah, Florence, and Bowling Green remodeled, not too many people were mad about Lexington getting 2.0. In fact, a couple of months before the remodel was announced, someone tweeted at Chuck E. Cheese on Twitter asking them to give 2.0 to Lexington. Someone even photoshopped what a Lexington remodel would look like. That's how bad the restaurant was at the time. Now, unfortunately, unlike what I did in the Florence video, I can't give you a timeline for when Lexington's remodel started, or when it concluded, but I do know it started on September 2nd, 2019, and concluded in early November 2019. So, what changed? The exterior didn't see too much change. Really, the only changes made were to the signage. The main part where the logo was is now green, with that crappy Microsoft Paint No Eyebrows Chuck E logo. The sides of the building now had these brown circular designs, with the Chuck E. Cheese font on it. The restaurant's name was also changed from Chuck E. Cheese's to Chuck E. Cheese Pizzeria and Games. As for the interior, this is where the main changes took place. All the old store art was trashed and replaced with this new Subway-looking artwork. Some of the older games were thrown out and new games were added, but they actually did keep most of the older games. Skytubes were also removed. The worst part about the remodel was, of course, the change 2.0 is best known for. They removed the animatronic! Now, I know Lexington's Chuck was in horrible condition, but I still hate that animatronics aren't a part of 2.0. As for what happened to him, it's likely due to his condition he was probably destroyed, or maybe used for spare parts at another location. So you're probably wondering what replaced the animatronic. Well, it was of course a crappy dance floor and TVs. And the space the stage used to be in now has portraits of the characters: Chuck, Jasper, Munch, Pasquale, and Helen, in that order. However, since Lexington was an early 2.0 remodel, there's some things about it that make it kinda unique compared to newer 2.0 remodels. For example, their dance floor is way bigger compared to newer remodels. It also has a purple border and individual LED lights that are able to make patterns, unlike today's dance floors, which are just giant TVs on the floor. Speaking of TVs, the TVs above the dance floor also show how old this remodel is, as instead of there being a giant TV on the wall, it's 6 TVs mounted above the dance floor. There are also lights around the showroom that are programmed with shows. Well, they were until recently. The grand opening of the newly remodeled Chuck E. Cheese's of Lexington, Kentucky was November 6, 2019. There was a ribbon-cutting ceremony where Chuck E. Cheese himself helped cut the ribbon. Not only did they have Chuck, but they also had both Helen and Munch. Now, I don't think Lexington actually owns these costumes. I think they were just rented out for this event. While most of Lexington's residents were happy with the new remodel, now that the place was clean and not rat-infested anymore, well, except for one, others were mad simply because it's a 2.0, and that it was a former Showbiz location. Thankfully, its reputation as the worst CEC in Kentucky is no more. Well, for the most part. And that brings us to today. As of November 2022, the Chuck E. Cheese's in Lexington, Kentucky is alive and surprisingly still well despite being a 2.0. It currently has a 3.8 star rating on Google, which surprisingly isn't the worst rated CEC in the state. That honor goes to Florence, but they kinda deserved it for destroying the last full band in Kentucky. If you want to visit this location, the address is 1555 E New Circle Road, Lexington, Kentucky, 40509. It's located in the Woodhill Circle Plaza. You might want to visit soon because once a location gets remodeled into a 2.0, its lifespan decreases, and it could lose business and close. Not that such a thing would actually happen, but I'm just saying. And there you have it, the history of Chuck E. Cheese's in Lexington, Kentucky. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun making it. The Chuck E. Cheese videos are some of my favorites to do. It's honestly bittersweet that I have now talked about every Chuck E. Cheese's in the state of Kentucky. I will of course do updates on these locations, but this is the last main history episode on a Kentucky CEC. But I do hope that one day more locations will open in the Bluegrass State. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments section down below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the History of series. Bye-bye!
Kids, let's play our homemade arrangement of Achy Breaky Heart for all the folks out here.
This special recipe called for a dash of fiddle flavoring.
You can tell the world you never was my girl. You can burn my clothes up when I'm gone. Or you can tell your friends just what a fool I've been and laugh and joke about me on the phone. You can tell my arms go back onto the farm. You can tell my feet to hit the floor. Or you can tell my lips to tell my fingertips they won't be reaching out for you no more. But don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, I just don't think it understands. And if you tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, you might blow up and tell this man.
Hey Jasper, looks as if you were cutting out more than cutting a rug.
Yeah, who is that little partner of yours?
Why, her name is Two-Steppin' Tammy.
Oh.
But the only 2 feet she was stepping on were mine. Talk about achy breaky heart, I got achy breaky feet.
You can tell your mom that I'm no good for y'all. You can tell my dog to bite my leg. Or tell your brother Cliff I'm giving him a tip. He never really liked me anyway. Or tell your Aunt Louise, tell her anything you please. Myself already knows I'm not okay. Or you can tell my eyes to watch out for my mind. It might be walking out on me today. But don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, I just don't think it understands. And if you tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, he might go up and tell this man. Don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, I just don't think it understands. And if you tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, he might blow up and tell this man. Don't tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, I just don't think it understands. And if you tell my heart, my achy breaky heart, he might blow up and tell this man.